The Columbia Gorge is one of the scenic wonders of the Northwest, but an unresolved question is who should manage the land on both sides of the river. Should Congress designate the gorge as a national scenic area under the jurisdiction of the National Park Service? Should a two-state regional commission be formed to manage the gorge? Or should it remain under the hand of a myriad of county and local governments? Congress will probably answer this question sometime this session with gorge legislation, but the final form of a bill has yet to be determined.
Many of the people involved in the dispute agree there is a need for some type of gorge preservation. Conservation groups such as the Friends of the Columbia Gorge support the national scenic designation.
Be about 310,000 acres, and that goes on the Oregon side from the Sandy River up to the Deschutes River, and on the Washington side from Gibbons Creek, which is just past Camas-Washougal, up to and including Maryhill Museum. So it's 310,000 acres. It's a large area, which is one of the reasons we need an able federal agency like the National Park Service to oversee the area.
But opponents of federal control tend to lean towards a two-state regional commission. However, Blair says such an approach has been tried in other parts of the country and hasn't worked.
The commission itself would become just absolutely politicized. That's exactly what happened in Lake Tahoe. The Tahoe agency, the TRPA was called, was a 12-member agency, 6 of whose members were from local county governments. Originally it was a 10-member agency, 6 members from local counties. In the next 10 years, 95% of all development requests were granted.
But gorge residents, led by groups such as Columbia Gorge United, fear they'll lose their homes, farms, and land if the National Park Service controls the gorge.
What the big scare tactic they will use is that everyone will be thrown out of their homes, that the government will come in and condemn everything. That's absolutely ridiculous. In all the legislation we've drafted, and all 4 senators say that there shall never be condemnation of single-family homes, there shall never be condemnation of grazing lands, and there shall never be condemnation of farming lands. So if you live in a single-family home, or if you live on lands used for farming or grazing, your land cannot be condemned. It's that simple.
New legislation will likely appear in this session of Congress, and Blair believes it will pass this time if it gets support from Washington's congressional delegation. In the past, gorge bills have sat in congressional committees.
For the first time, we've got a governor from the state of Washington who says that the federal government has to play the primary role in management of the area. We've never had support in the top political echelons of Washington state. We do now. The 2 senators admit that there's a need for legislation. They're committed to having legislation. The only question is how strong that legislation is going to be.
The Columbia Gorge debate is somewhat unusual in a sense. With most issues, you have 2 very polarized positions. With this one, both sides say something should be done to protect the gorge. They just can't agree on what steps should be taken and who should carry them out. For East County Reports, I'm Ken Osuma.